Thursday. It is time for the Spark. It is classy. We're glad that you all are with us as we continue in our journey through the Gospels. We find ourselves here just about a third of the way through our journey. We are in Mark chapter 4 and 5 today, and we're going to be talking about sowing seeds. And Jesus talks about parables quite a bit. This builds on a little bit of what Pastor MP talked about in yesterday's Spark. Matthew's gospel begins with a genealogy. Mark's gospel hits the ground running with John the Baptist. We have in Luke's gospel a dedication to Theophilus. John is poetry. We're in Mark right now, which literally it's like racing through the Gospels. Once you've read through Matthew, you get to Mark, it feels like you're reading an abridged version. You're reading a Reader's Digest version of the account we just read in Matthew. Mark is the first gospel. Mark is the most expectant of Jesus's immediate return. It's almost as if Mark and the author was writing so fast because he wanted to get it down before Jesus returned. And so some of the stories we'll see in Mark coming up, they're truncated, they're more abbreviated, but there's still things to learn right there about what is included and what is excluded. And so our reading from today is from Mark chapter 4. I'm going to start off with verses 1 through 9. So let us now listen as God speaks to us through God's word. Again, Jesus began to teach beside the lake. Such a very large crowd gathered around him that he got into a boat on the lake and sat there, while the whole crowd was beside the lake on the land. He began to teach them many things in parables, and in his teaching he said to them, "Listen, a sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seed fell on the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Other seed fell on rocky ground where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly, since it had no depth of soil. And when the sun rose, it was scorched, and since it had no root, it withered away. Other seed fell among the thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no grain. Other seed fell into the good soil and brought forth grain, growing up and increasing and yielding 30 and 60 and 100-fold. And he said, let anyone with ears to hear listen. May this God our minds, our spirits. This is the word of the Lord. Be to God. Parables are problematic. Now, they're God's word, they're good, they're edifying, they're things we can learn, but parables are hard sometimes because they are stories, and stories will be interpreted partly through the lens of our own lives, the lens of our own culture, the lens of our own experience. And so when we hear the parable of the sower, it can be very easy to scratch our head. My parents, for Christmas this last year, they got us a above ground planter. And, these are the excitements of middle age, I guess. I'm so excited to have this. And when it was nice this past weekend, I went ahead and put it together. So it's sitting in our backyard in a good spot waiting for us to put some good soil in it. Now, when we put the seeds in that soil, I am going to be very careful about specific things that we're looking to plant the first time go around, whether they be strawberries, whether they be peppers, and hopefully we don't get those two things confused. But the story right here was to people who knew seeds, who relied on the soil, who that's how they fed their families, that's out of the excess how they made money to buy other things. And so when we hear the story of the sower, the parable of the sower, for us, at least for me, even growing up on a farm, it's somewhat foreign. We had 40 acres down there outside Stratford, Missouri, in southwest Missouri. We didn't have any, we had a family garden. We didn't grow crops there because the only thing that really grows in the limestone ground of the Ozarks is more rocks. But we did have a garden for a while that took a lot of care to work with. But that was more of a hobby. That was more of a thing that we could enjoy during the summertime. My dad certainly enjoyed being out there and working in the soil. I understand that now. When I was a kid, I didn't like it at all. That's why you have cattle farms down there, because in south of Missouri, the land's not good for that. Now, northern Missouri is a different animal with corn, and you go down into the Boot Hill and you go down the Delta, and you'll have different kinds of soil, different kind of things that will grow up. Well, in this case, the parable of the sower, people would hear sower, their ears would perk up because they would say, well, that's me, or that's my brother, or that's my neighbor who does this. But also, seed was expensive. And so, in hearing this story, something we might miss is the recklessness of the scatterer, of the one who goes out to scatter the seed. Some of the seed, we're told, it goes along the path. And some of the seed goes in the shallow soil, and some of the seed goes among the thorns, and some of the seed goes into the good soil. Well, if you are poor and seed is a valuable commodity, you're going to be very careful. So right there we have an image of the sower, God in this case, we would think, God who is reckless with the seed being thrown out. There is a church not far from where we pastored and we were part of in Joplin, in Pittsburg, Kansas, the Presbyterian Church of Pittsburg, Kansas. And of course, you're in Kansas, and so there's going to be wheat waving. But there is a beautiful stained glass window that is there. And it is the parable of the sower. And you've got the different scenes from that story that are there. And at the very top, if I remember correctly, there's a beautiful scene of lots and lots of healthy wheat. And it is in that, looking at that picture, it's reading the story that we see. The seed is the good news. Jesus explains this parable. It doesn't explain all his parables, but Jesus explains this parable. The seed is the good news. The point is, the sower is scattering the good news everywhere. The good news of God's love, the good news of reconciliation, the good news of forgiveness, the good news of God's kingdom coming near. That seed's everywhere. And we're told some falls on the path. And the birds in the story, they eat it. Well, the analogy, the explanation that's given, it is those people where it never really implants. It never really lands for them. They never really get it. And so it is the birds come and steal this good news. And we know people like that. We know people that may have been presented with the good news. Maybe they have been presented with the good news in an unexpected place. Maybe there was a forgiveness of something they have done, or maybe there was some kind of blessing they had received, but they chalked it up to circumstance, or they completely ignored it. It's as if the seed never laid root. So that's the seed that falls on the path, and the birds snatch it. The devil steals the joy. Well, the next seed that falls, we're told, is seed that falls in the shallow soil. And it grows, and it looks good, it looks promising, it starts to sprout up, and it grows fast, Miracle-Gro kind of stuff, and this is exciting. But we know that there are seasons here. And we know that if you plant in the spring, it's got to last through the summer. It's got to continue to grow in the summer. And we know it's hot. And that's one thing St. Louis is it's hot. I think it was, I forget the year, is when St. Louis held the national or the Major League All-Star game in Casey Stengel, I think is who it was. He was managing the Mets, and he was there. They asked him about his experience at the new Busch Stadium. This was Busch #2, the multi-purpose cookie cutter stadium that preceded the current Busch. And they said, well, how do you like the stadium? He goes, oh, it's great. It certainly holds in the heat. And that's one thing in St. Louis, is we know that right now it's beautiful outside, and it's wonderful for May. We know that the summertime is going to be hot, not just at Busch Stadium, but everywhere. It's going to be humid, and we know the sun's going to bear down. And in this case, the sun bore down, and because the soil was not deep enough, the seed tried to germinate, tried to attach, it tried to go deeper, but there was nowhere else for it to go. And because it was so shallow, when the sun came out, when persecutions came out, when trials and tribulations and troubles arose, it withered. Now, we know people like this. I've had some people in my experience in my life who went through what would be called a saving experience, a salvation experience. And man, they were on fire early on. And the other side of that is they were in love with God, in love with Jesus, in love with the Bible. And then in some ways they became so holy that they were a holy mess in the way that they became some of the most judgmental people I ever knew. And it's funny that for 6 months or for a year, they're on this path, and not every single one, but for many of those people, later on they sprung up quickly, but it felt like there was no root later on. There was no root. For instance, when things do not go our way, when someone gets sick and we pray for them and things don't get better, and we struggle with that. Well, that frankly is, for a lot of people, that's a crisis of faith. And we go through these crises of faith, and it's at those point where our roots need to be deep. Our roots need to be deep in this, that says that, yes, you might be in the night, and yes, weeping might last for a night, but joy will come in the morning. The being rooted in the Word is a chance to weather the hot sun or weather the persecution or the troubles that will come. So we're halfway there. The next seed, again, abundantly scattered. God has put it everywhere. The sower's put it out everywhere. It falls among the thorns. And it starts to grow, we're told, but as it grows, it gets choked out, because that's the other thing that's coming to be here in a few weeks. Is the weather's getting nicer, allergies are popping up, and we come to dandelion season. Dandelion season, and that's the thing, is it doesn't matter, at least with my yard. I'm not using chemicals on it. There's some fertilizer here or there. I guarantee dandelions keep up. They're going to keep growing. And they're going to grow up fast, and they're going to try to spread. There are, the question of thorns. It will try to choke out and try to dominate the good seed, the good wheat that is there. Well, what Jesus is saying, it's saying the third thing, the thorns are wealth, or the quest for wealth, or success, the way the world has defined it. Man, this is a dangerous one, and this is a hard one, because there's such a desire. We talk with our kids, and they talk about what they want to do with their lives, and that question of, you want to find something that is fulfilling. You want to find something to which you can support yourself, support your family, to where you can be generous, but also beyond that, to know that that is not your identity. That is not who you are. The goal is not to make more money. But it was true in Jesus' day. It's true in our day, that the lust, or the craving of wealth can choke out the moving forward. Can, a day like today, to not appreciate what God has given us with the quest to make more money when we already have enough. So there's a very danger of those thorns choking it out. And finally, we're told that the seed falls on the good soil. And for all the recklessness of a third of the seed falling on the path, or excuse me, a fourth of the seed falling on the path, a fourth among the thorns, a fourth among the shallow soil, that 25% that falls on the good soil, it produces a harvest. It's interesting. Matthew's gospel, I think, reverses this, where it says 100 times, 60 times, 30 times. Mark's gospel says 30 times, 60 times, 100 times. And so even in the recklessness of the sower scattering seed everywhere, when the soil finally lands on good, or the seed finally lands in good soil, in rich soil, in deep soil, it produces a harvest that is abundant, even more than what would seemingly be wasted in these other three places. And then Jesus says, these are the people who not only hear this, but believe it. It is as if God's word is planted in their heart, and so it takes root. And yes, the hot sun will come out. And yes, there will be persecution. And yes, there will be folks who try to steal your joy. And yes, there will be times where your faith is tested. But if the soil is deep enough, the seed is going to be there. So that's the question, maybe the challenge for us today, is to check out our soil, to check out to see if it is ready for this good news. If our soil, if our spirit, if our faith is deep enough to accept this good news. And then we trust that God's going to grow that faith in us. Then we trust that God's going to have the roots go lower, but also the good fruit, the good grain that will come out of that. It's almost planting season, friends. So may we pay attention to our soil, May we pay attention to this good news, and may it grow in us. May it go with us. May it grow through us. And may the harvest be bountiful. May God be with you all.